So the next session is assessment now in literacy, in English, in languages, and it's by Jessica Venyo. So I'm reading her profile, and it goes as follows. Jessica Venyo is a passionate and dedicated educator. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology and a postgraduate diploma in education. She has been part of Ghana National School staff since 2014 and is currently a Year 4 teacher. And she's teaching my son. Let's make sure that one I put it inside. Jessica believes in making an impact in education globally through collaboration and with other educators. She's an alumnus of the Duke of Edinburgh, did I say that? Edinburgh Award, head of the State Award Scheme. Jessica believes that every student is unique and endowed with talents and strength, given equal opportunities and a positive psychological environment, they can reach their full potential. Providing an active physical environment is essential to her. Therefore, she takes it into consideration that children have individual differences and they learn at different paces, using different methods such as cooperative learning, visualization, inquiry learning, kinesthetic, and practical methods to suit different learning styles. As educators, we must ignite the fire in our students. And she closes it off with the quote. She believes that education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. That's quotation from Nelson Mandela. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
So we are going to be looking at assessing creative writing. When it comes to assessing creative writing, what do you do in your schools? I want to know. I want this to be interactive. What do you do in your schools? How do you assess your children's work? The English teachers, please. We are all learning. I also want to learn from you. Anyone? I have a reward though. Okay.
Alright.
You question them. Okay. Orally.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of
the assessment.
Okay. You question them. Okay, that's very good. Okay, so we are going to be looking at different ways in which you can assess them. So we are going to be looking at a general overview of creative writing assessment, formative assessment in creative writing, summative assessment in creative writing, then questions and answers at the end. So normally the kids have the time to go to the library to borrow books, to read different genres. So when they read different genres, they are able to learn from reading those books. They are able to brainstorm and also be imaginative, so that when they are asked to write stories, they can input that into it. But before you start assessments, you have to think about the writer. What learning style does the person use? What pace is the person in when you consider the person in your class? Also, you have to look at the type of writing. Are they writing an explanatory text? Are they writing a persuasive text or an informative text? And what is the purpose of assessing their writing? Maybe you want feedback on what you've taught them so far. So you give them the task so that you can have feedback and know what they have gathered so far. The main purpose of writing assessment is to provide feedback to students. So as that provides feedback to you, you also check what you are doing so far to see if it is helping the students or whether you have to align what you are teaching differently. And also, you have to also set your expectations. When we came here, you laid out your expectations for us here. So you have to also lay out the expectations for the kids. So first of all, let's take a look at writing process and strategies. Okay. So one of the strategies is you have to read aloud mentor text. When we talk about mentor text, you want them to write an explanatory text. You have to look for a sample and read it to them. Let them know the various parts that they have to input in an explanatory text. Pre-writing. When it comes to pre-writing, what do they do before they write? Do they just get up and start writing? Or you give them time to brainstorm, think about what they want to write about? So some of the students, they need to have what? Mind maps. When you talk about mind maps, they need to write down what they want to write in their write-up. Also, some of them need graphic organizers. Some of them like to draw. We have artistic students. So you give them the chance to put that into drawings and they write captions under it. We also have the story mountain. So you write each stage, the beginning, the middle, the climax, and the ending. You write that in the story mountain in an order. So after that, you move on to the free writing stage. This is when they write the first part of their writing. So this is called a draft. So they write freely, you don't interrupt. So after they are done with that, then you move on to the revising and the editing stage. What do you do at that stage? So with this stage, there are different ways to assess when it gets to this stage. You can assess as a teacher, or you let a peer assess. We'll be looking at that briefly. Then you move on to the publishing stage. This is when you finish up the write-up. You've done your editing, you've done your corrections, then you do the final write-up. Okay, so we have, for formative assessments, we have the self-assessment checklist. So when you talk about self-assessment checklists, this is when you give the students the chance to assess themselves. You can put them in pairs, you can do it as a group. So we're looking at different ways in which the students can assess themselves. When they do their draft, you give them this checklist. They have to tick in each box to show whether they have everything you are expecting. So for example, my story has an interesting title. So if you have that in your story, you have to take that part. I have described the setting and atmosphere using descriptive language. You have to take that if you have it. So the part that you don't have, you now have to work on it. So this is what you have with you. So you give it to the children. After their first draft, they check if they have all of this in it. This is your expectation. So they have to meet it. So they have to check before they move on to the next stage. So this is what you have. It's not so clear. So you have it so you can check. Any question about the checklist, please?
Okay, so just a top-up.
Yeah.
So if there are other aspects in the checklist that you haven't taught your children, you don't need to give this to maybe a year 2 child if you've not taught them some of the requirements in the checklist. So you can run your checklist, look through this one, the ones that you have taught them. If they don't know who characters are, I'm not sure you're supposed to assess the basis of this. Yes.
So you also have to refer to your lesson plan.
Exactly.
And look at the success criteria. So it must be in line with the success criteria.
And what you are looking out for.
Yeah. Any question, please? Should we go on? Okay, then we also have the feedback stickers. So with this, you pair students and give them stickers and let them evaluate their partner's work. So with the first drafts, you give them stickers, they'll read through their partner's work. If there's anything they need to change, they'll put in any recommendation, any appraisal. They'll write it on the sticker and stick it in the book. And they'll give it back to the partner to read out loud. Then you discuss as a class. So we have this. This is an example of it. Well done. You have a title in your writing. Now you have to describe your characters. Maybe you didn't describe your characters. So that child will write that you have to now describe your characters. So you will now take your book and work on that part. Okay, so we also have the Bloom's taxonomy verbal feedback. So Susie already explained what Bloom's taxonomy is. So with this, you have a chart. So you put this chart down and you use it in the class to ask questions about the write-up. So over here we have can you explain how, what, or why? So if you have an explanatory text, so can you explain how the digestive system works? If you have a persuasive text, so I can ask you, what are the key features of a persuasive text? So based on the questions we have here, we'll use this in the class to ask each other questions. Okay, let me give you some time for that. Okay, so we have another type of peer assessment. We have 2 stars and a wish. So with this, you have a label. So on the label, you have 2 stars, and below it, you have a wish. So you give these labels to the kids and let them exchange their books. So they'll read through the draft and they'll write down 2 stars. 2 stars means what is going on well, what did the person do well. So they'll write that down as an appraisal. Then the wish is what they have to now work on. So they'll write the wish down, then you go over it as a class. So we are going to do an activity on that right now. We're going to write only the first paragraph. Even sometimes in our schools, we break it down for the kids. We don't let them write everything at once. So we are going to write the first paragraph for a narrative essay about a memorable day in 2023. So now this is what we are going to do. The paper that you've been given, the other paper, please read what they've written. And you are now the assessors. So for the 2 stars, write your appraisals, what they did well. Yes, where you see 2 stars. Then for the wish, what they have to work on. It was assessed by Maud. One summer afternoon, I walked slowly home with sadness on my face. My mother asked, "How was school?" Angrily, I bellowed, "I do not want to go back to school ever again." My mother was taken aback. How cross I was. She had never seen me in that state. So for the 2 stars, Maud wrote, "I like how you use adjectives to describe your emotions. I also saw that you use an opener." So he had one summer afternoon. That was his sentence opener. Then we have the wish. "I wish you had spoken more about mom's actions." So we have on the 8th of March 2023, my colleagues and I went to the school farm to work. As soon as we reached the farm, we were welcomed by the bees. They chased us, stung us. Some people have been stung at their forehead, mouth, head, and ears. We ran and hid ourselves in the cassava plantation. So over here, there is a heading relating to the narrative, and the heading or title is "The Day I Will Not Forget." The narrative portrays real life situations, and the wish is choice of tenses. So they could have improved their tenses, yes?
Maybe you are looking at synonyms.
Yes.
So we try to teach our children, like when they write, they should avoid using one word over and over and over.
Yes.
So they should use synonyms.
Yes.
So for star, they could find an alternative.
Yeah. Okay, now the next activity. Please take the checklist. We are going to look at the first 3 things on the checklist. So my story has an interesting title. If there's a title, take that portion. If there's no title, you put an X. So at the end of the assessment, what do you do? How do you assess the kids? When they do their publishing, what do you do next? So we use rubrics in our school. So the rubric must be in line with the checklist. So you can't give the kids this and have different things on your rubric. It must be in line with this. So this is your expectation, so you should have that in your rubrics too. So I'm going to show you how it looks like. So this is a 3rd grade narrative writing rubric with all your expectations. Then we have this for explanatory text. So does it have a title to tell you what the writing is about? Then we have the scores at the side. Then we have, does it use adverbs and adverbial phrases to show readers the order that things should be done? So we have 3 there. So each expectation has the score at the side. So when you are doing your summative assessment, you use the rubric. Okay, so to teach is to learn twice over by Joseph Joubert. Please, any questions? Please, can I have your attention? Okay. My story has an interesting title. We have an X there, that means there's no title. So they have to work on that. I have described the setting and atmosphere using descriptive language. So that is in there, so she ticked. I have introduced my character or characters and told the reader about them. She also ticked. So she has all the 2 parts, but she doesn't have the title. So she now has to work on that when she's rewriting. So this is the first draft. So the first draft, you leave them to write freely. Thank you.